Audit proposal internal controls.
Tim?
Yeah,
Tim?
we had sent out just requests to 5 different auditing firms to provide us with some pricing on internal control audits. 2 of the firms decided not to quote. We did get quotes back from Miller Cooper, our auditors, Evans, Marshall, and Pease, and also Baker Tilly. Baker Tilly and Miller Cooper are both large auditing firms that do an extensive amount of auditing with school districts. Baker Tilly came back with a quote of $20,000. Evans, Marshall, and Pease was $7,000, and the Miller Cooper audit was the number I have in there in the packet, $1,760 to $3,000. That was for an individual. I think they call them cycles with regard to what they would audit, because I had asked each of the firms to try and break up the cost so that if we only wanted to do part of it at one point in time and part of it at another point in time, which was a request from one of the board members. So actually to do everything and be comparable to the 20,000 and the 7,000, and one of the things that Tim pointed out was the cost would be closer to, somewhere between $7,200 and $9,000. So I think what we're looking at, and basically, I think any firm that comes in here and does an internal control audit is going to be looking at 3 main items. One is going to be the collection of revenue and the deposits. Another is going to be the expenditures, the purchasing, and the accounts payable side, and then the final piece is going to be human resource and payroll. And I think we can see from these that we're probably in that $7,000 to $9,000 range for an audit if they were to come in and do that.
Any comments on this? Finance committee?
Did you provide us a document that showed what our auditors was going to do for the money?
They basically just gave me a verbal number of $7,000.
Well, my comment is this firm that broke it down by Miller Cooper, they're in the same price range as our guy, and they explain what they're going to do, and it seems appropriate to me.
If the majority of the board chooses to do it, I would recommend using someone besides our auditor.
And that I was going to say too, because they've been doing it for years. So I really think, contrary to our local newspaper thinking maybe once every 50 years to do an internal control audit might be appropriate, I think the fact we don't even know when one was done and some of the other issues we've seen, it's appropriate for us to spend the money to do it. And I would recommend out of these to use Miller, because their price isn't that, could even be less than our current auditor, and getting some fresh eyes and going through, I think, would be a useful exercise.
Any other comments?
Are you proposing doing all 3 at once, or doing one each year for the next 3 years?
Well, they proposed 5, but even if up to 5, I'm not so, one was assets, capital assets, which we just had an audit of that about a year and a half ago, right?
Yes.
And the other one was treasury, which Tim didn't mention, but we don't have a lot of money. We don't really invest our cash very much. We go through that to the audit. So I would propose the other 3, and it's somewhere in the range of $6,000 to $8,000, and I would do it all at one time.
Any other questions, comments on this? Gary?
I would look at each of these cycles and try to determine the materiality of it. So in the case of cash and revenue, what we're really looking at is not property taxes.
No.
We're not looking at the state monies coming in.
No federal.
So, right. So we're looking at,
Money that comes in through the front
right.
door.
We're looking at the monies that are coming through the students or the parents, what have you.
Correct.
Or the third-party type of things that we're renting facilities out for.
Yes.
We as a board have to decide, are we, do we want to, and how, we need to understand what kind of dollar amounts we're talking about on an annual basis to spend $6,000 on that.
Well, that'd only be $1,700 to $3,000.
I'm sorry, $3,500,
Yeah,
all right, for local cash receipts.
right.
basically is what we're asked to be audited.
Well, we'd ask them to, we just found out that the treasurer made a mistake on our cash receipts too. We'd ask them to look at all of it.
So you're asking
Well-
to then go to a third-party location and audit the treasurer's office?
I'm asking them to audit what they said they would cash in revenues for 1,700 to 3,200.
Yeah, but we don't get the cashier. Right?
Right,
The
the only-
monies come to the treasurer's office.
Right, all the property taxes, all the money from the state, all the money from the federal government.
And the only
all
way we
goes
get that
directly
money
to the
is when we
treasurer's
ask to
office.
spend it.
Oh, say that again?
The only way we get the money theoretically is when we ask to when we're sending purchase orders and we're sending spend it. All
Right.
the money resides with them.
Correct. So
So they take it in, they allocate it to our district based on information they're getting, based on their receipt cycles that they're getting from the Cook County telling them it's this district's monies, right?
Yes, from the state. The federal money comes through the state, but it all comes through the state. So the receipts that we get are the fees that we charge the students, it's, you know.
So it's all the
rentals that-
local things that come through us?
Yes.
And then you remit that to the treasurer?
We deposit it into the account.
Our own bank accounts.
Do we still have the manual?
But you
three-part-
send that to the treasurer's office?
No,
don't
we
you?
take it to the
No.
bank.
In cash receipts, rentals, fees, activity fees, pay to participate,
That's all
Yeah,
taken.
the rentals all come in, and, I mean, that's all checks that come in. You know, we deposit those checks into the treasurer's account.
Right, and so it get deposited into the
Correct.
treasurer's account?
Right.
Right. I know we're controlling the cash, but it is going to the treasurer's account.
Yes,
At which point, then they're reporting it through their they're noting it also, right, they're noting it through the reporting that we're getting.
yes.
Do we still use the manual three-part carbonless cash receipt system?
When people come in and provide cash, yes.
We might be better off spending money on upgrading that, and then a few years down the road doing that portion.
According to our PMA, we take in $1,160,000 a year. So we'd be spending $3,000 to audit $1 million worth of receipts we take in a year.
I think it's 379, isn't it?
All the other local revenue. right?
Other local includes, isn't other local revenue include personal property taxes? Which comes directly from the state.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Right.
What you're talking about is fees, registration fees, the biggest item, pay to participate.
what do we collect, what would you roughly say in hand, Tim?
Uh,
We have what, 400,000 in our activity accounts?
Yeah, that would be a separate type of thing that they would, do if we wanted them to audit that. And we're talking about here is we're talking about the board accounts. Pay to participate and registration fees probably total somewhere between $450,000, $500,000. And then all the other fees we have for tuitions.
Why wouldn't it include the activity funds?
those aren't board accounts, that'd be
I
some
don't think it
separate.
said board accounts in their presentation. It says the district's current internal control structure. We're responsible for the activity accounts. Why would it be treated separate?
Right, but what Gary was talking about was board accounts, the money that comes in from the state and the federal government.
Would the
to board accounts.
$3,000, under your understanding, cover both the board accounts and activity accounts and how we do cash receipts?
I'd have to talk to him about it. I don't know.
Why don't we go back and get a little more clarification on that? And get us some dollar numbers, how much we're talking about, and put it in good perspective. And what exactly are the accounts that we're considering being covered by the fee for the cash part? I think the other parts are worthy, especially the expenditure side, because that's where we're spending the bulk of the money. You know, we may not control all the money coming in, but we're certainly expending it
Yeah, and payroll.
in payroll.
Human resources, that can go either way. But we've kinda, I mean, I've done a ton of internal controls on that, but to have an outside set of eyes look at human resources to make sure what we're doing, you know, I can go either way on that.
Well, I mean, from a human resource standpoint, you can do a reasonableness test based on the fact that you know you are employing X number of employees at a roughly average rate of X, and you calculate that out, you calculate out your benefits associated with it. You can roughly get a sense, are we materially correct? But I think the bigger one is the expenditure side. But, I mean, we're talking if you pull out 85% of your expenditures, because those are payroll and benefits, talking 15% or, 80%, okay, so you're talking 20% of a $20 million budget, right? So you're talking $4 million, all
It's worth a look.
right?
All right, Mike said to bring it back, to go back and get a little bit more clarification on the sections we want to do and look at for the board. Is there agreement on that, or we want to vote tonight?
I think we should get
No,
more
I
information
would
to
see
decide how
what
to
the dollar
spend this
amounts we're
money.
talking about.
Okay.
That's what I was
Does
leading
everybody
to.
agree with that?
Do you want me to investigate the three or the two? Expenditures and HR, or right now, do you wanna just focus on expenditures, or do you want, what do we do to all
I would
three?
investigate all three.
Me too.
Okay,
All right,
Just make sure we know what we're getting.
Tim, you got it? You know where you're gonna go?
Yep.
okay.
All right, next item is Triton data agreement.
Well, real quick, we're working with Miller Cooper, is that what we're all
Yes.
saying here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.